All right, so in the last lesson, I showed you how to import a single model into 3ds Max. I think everyone recognizes the inefficiencies of having to import 100 single models into your scene, and there has to be a way to do that in batch. So I guess a couple options could be that you XREF them all together in AutoCAD, bind that XREF, and then import that. Again, if there are any changes, you're going to have to re-import, create a new AutoCAD file and re-import. So what I like to do is I like to keep it very granular, which keeps it very flexible as far as making changes. And I think we all know that changes, although rare, do occur in projects. So here we have this our previous plant model. So I'm just going to press Control A, and I'm going to delete it, and press Z to zoom back to the grid. And so I've written a script that will help sort of batch import all those files, and it has some options to it, and I'm going to show you how to install it right now. So go ahead and navigate to the zip file, or wherever you unzipped the zip file, and find under the scripts folder, there's this polyform importer.ms, and all you're going to do is select it and then just drag it into your scene. Doesn't matter if it's empty or full or whatever. It has no effect on the scene itself. So once you've done that, then we're going to want to create a menu up here so that you can access it pretty easy. So to do that, you want to click on the Customize drop down again, and then Customize User Interface. And then you have all these options, and what you want here is menus. Click on New, and let's say Polyform Tools. All right, so we'll just call that Polyform Tools. Oh, and it looks like I already created it. You won't get that option, or you won't get that error message, but I did because I've already created it. However, once you create it, then it's going to go down here in this menus list. Pretty handy. So if you just select in there and you start typing Polyform, oh, there it is, Polyform Tools, just drag it on over here and say, you can put it anywhere in the list. I always put everything after the last one, Max script. Okay, so when you expand it, you're not going to have that, and you're not going to have that, and you're not going to have that. It's going to look a lot like this. So basically what you did, you created a container, and you said, okay, now I want to put this function into this container. So to do that, you come up here to Category, and you just look for Polyform Tools, no underbar, and here is the Polyform Importer, and just drag that down right into there, and then you'll be able to see that Polyform Tools is in your menu and Polyform Importer right there. All right, so then we're done here. Excellent. Great. All right, so now that we've added our custom menu to our custom script to the menu, and the custom menu to hold that script, let's go ahead and check it out. All right, so here we have this pretty basic UI. We have directory and files, some import options, and then do it. Okay, so let's start with directory and files. So click on the browse button, and we're going to navigate down to mine is sort of, I cheated and I hard-coded the path into mine, so all I have to do is press OK, but you will actually have to browse to your files. I'm sorry. But when you do, you will see that if you navigate to this particular data set, you will see 96 files to be imported. If you do a different data set, obviously that number will be different. All right, but I don't want 96 files because that's too many files for example purposes. So I am going to just say up here in the prefix, and it's not really the prefix for the file, it's more like this file contains the string or the following letters in a row. Let's say gly for glycol would be a solid choice. All right, so we have 4 files that have gly in the title, and if we look at the data set and we sort of skip that, don't worry about that. There's nothing to see here, my friends, nothing. And then this import log.text, let's Control A delete, Control S close. All right, so now it's blank. Okay, so here is the file where I am, the path where I'm keeping the DWGs, and then we have all these files, and so you can see that this file is one that's going to be imported. I'm sure there's others with the word gly. Hey, look, it's almost like I've done this before. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Carry the 1. Yeah, there's 4 files to be imported. So just verifying here. Okay, so let's go ahead and import them after we talk about the import options. So we have link file and import file. So link file creates a live link between the DWG and the max file. Some people like that way to work. I don't like that way to work, just because linking the file sort of limits me down the road as far as functionality goes, and I just really I'm going to import it anyway, so might as well be able to import as fast as possible and make changes as quick as possible. So that's what these other options are for, actually. And the next one would be save import as .max file, which basically says convert DWG to max file. It's going to import the DWG into this file, save it as a max file, reset the entire reset max, which means it, kind of blows everything away, and then it does it all again with the next file, just so you're not re-importing with old layers and that kind of thing. So the resetting is necessary. And then taking the next option, which is file name prefix. So what this does, and you might like this, you might not like it. I find in the long run it's extremely handy to have, because when you prefix, so what it does is it takes each object that's being imported and it prefixes the name of that object with the file that it came from, places an underbar, and names it the layer that it came from, or that it sits on. And sometimes that can make the file name very long, but without having to dig around in the layers or some other way of finding out where it came from and what drawing it belongs to, you can just click on an object and see, okay, I need to look at that. And there's some other valuable uses for that, but I'll show you that as we do this. All right, so I'm gonna select that, and you'll see a smooth modifier opens up. That will not open if file name prefix is not open. So I'm gonna select that, because what that does is that applies a smooth modifier. It smooths out it smooths out the segments of each object. So for pipe, for example, you're going to want that to be smooth because it's nice and round, but for beams and stairs and steel objects, you don't want that, because you want those to be nice and crisp and square. So if you have a special object that you want to add in there, just comma the object name. If you want to delete these, just make sure that your own are comma separated. And then unparent objects, rather than try to explain that to you, I'm just going to show you what that does in a moment. So let's go ahead and import these 4 files and see where we're at. All right, so we click go, and it brings up the options again, and you're like, not again with the options. Okay, one time. On the first import of the first file, it's going to bring up these options. But after that, every file after that is going to use these settings. So this is sort of like your last chance to change a setting or update something or whatever. But let's just click OK. And then it'll start going. And you know when you're in line at the fast food place and they give you your food, but before they give you your food, they give you your credit card and you're trying to put it back in your wallet. And then they give you your food and you're like, I don't even have my credit card back in my wallet yet. So that's how fast this is. I can't even stop talking before the thing is done. And in 41 seconds, that was probably the longest 41 seconds of your life. I'm sorry. All right. So let's, okay, so these are gray. First of all, why are they gray? Well, they're gray because they're frozen. And when they get imported, I freeze them so that the next round of imports so we don't apply changes over and over again to the same files. Aside from that, freezing objects makes them unselectable, anythingable. So it saves on your your resources as far as hardware is concerned, because the software doesn't have to worry about it. Therefore, it doesn't have to allocate memory for if you might select something or something like that. But so if I were to pull up the frames per second and so the viewport stats, they're called, you can see that they're pretty good. And if I were to unfreeze all these objects by right-clicking anywhere on the viewport and say unfreeze all, you can see the frames per second drop out, simply because now I can manipulate all these objects if I want to, and the software has to be ready for it. All right, so I select this. Let me select this guy down here. If you look at its file name, right, 3D EQP002 glycol is the file that it came from, underbar 0, which is its layer name. So I don't really think that the designers meant to put this on layer 0. I think they probably had another layer, like an equipment layer, for example, that they could have put this on. So I would probably call up my designer friend, Aaron, and say, hey, Aaron, you might want to take a look at 3D EQP002 glycol, because your whatever this is on layer 0, and we don't want that. And by the way, these connections kind of I don't think it's going to work. So basically, I can catch things in here, just another set of eyes, and of course the designers would be really happy to hear from me. But in the end, if it makes a higher quality product, then that's what we want. So, and I can also tell him that the connections to PIP103kgly is the connecting file, and he needs to have his people look at that one. Our people, because we're a team, we're a single team working together to achieve a common objective. So that is the import. All right, and so you see why I prefix the file name. It's very handy and quick access to the information, which is what it's all about. All right, so you can see here that there are some layers here in the layer manager, and they all are the layers that came from the DWG, right? But if this was layer 0, for example, layer 0, right, and I have all these objects on layer 0, well, they probably shouldn't be. Anyway, I'm driving that home because it's important. All right, so with these fasteners, you can see there's nothing in those layers, even though they were imported. And that's because in this unparent objects, they were deleted. And they were deleted because they were spline objects that really have no bearing in the scene. They're just connectors between the pipes and the elbows or pipes and the components that are on the pipe, and they're going to drag down your viewport quality, and you're never going to see them in the render. So those get axed right away. All right, so let me show you now. In the next video, I'm going to go through and show you the unparent objects and how it's absolutely necessary. All right, see you there.